Welcome to the, February 5th Board of Health meeting. First on the agenda, review of the minutes from the meeting on January 8th. I take it everybody had a chance to review them.
Yes, I'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes as presented.
Chairman will second.
Can I,
Sorry?
just a comment?
Sure.
Just a minor correction.
Okay.
D-O-R-A-N-T for my name.
Okay.
D-O-R.
Okay, we'll make a note on,
D-U-R.
okay, gotcha, sorry about that.
No problem. No
Lisa
problem.
will make
It's all the time.
Okay, all right, we will accept the minutes as written, as corrected. We'll correct Mr. Durant's name to D-O-R. Lisa has, I'm sorry, yeah. Corrected, just make note to correct that. So we'll make, Chairman will second that. And motion passes, all in favor say aye?
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes. All right, thank you, John. All right, second on the agenda is for wind waste operational update. Hi Peter, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Better now.
Okay, operational update for wind waste in January. So facility operated 94% availability, processed approximately 37,000 tons, and generated approximately 19,500 megawatts. We didn't have any unscheduled downtime events. But we did have one maintenance scheduled event in the middle of the month running around that ran total of 90 hours. No radioactive loads or excess emissions since the last Board of Health meeting. That was on, I believe, the 8th of January. Some other updates, 4 other updates. On January 14th, the Saugus Fire Department was on site at approximately 7 p.m. Responding to a smoke alarm at the facility. So at that point in time, we had a equipment casualty at the facility that led to some smoky conditions inside the facility, so it was actually a smoky condition. The control room relayed to the fire department there was no fire. Fire department inspected and left site with no issues. The facility returned to operation, or the boiler returned to normal operations 30 minutes later. No smoke escaped any of the buildings. On the 25th of January, approximately 7:30 p.m., the switchyard, we had a switchyard issue which caused an isochronous event, and I think I should probably define an isochronous event. So that is where a power plant is generating full electricity load, and it either goes to completely offline, or it goes to what we call isochronous load, and that's just another word for it is island mode, where they're only generating enough electricity to power the actual power plant. Any sort of electricity that would be going out to the grid is rejected, and you only power in-house power, right? So you go from a full load to actually, let's call it 5% load. So it's a pretty significant event in the power plant. So that happened on 125. The reason it happened was that we had a raccoon penetrate our switchyard and tripped off our high voltage transformer. Unfortunate event. Full load rejection occurred. Drag valve silencer arrangement was placed in service by operators per the procedure. But the drag valve failed to open immediately in auto, which led to a 30-second noise issue. We notified all state and local agencies of the issue. The facility returned to service 3 hours later. Since the issue, it was funny because a year and a half ago we put out some protocol around our high voltage yard. And that was to prevent intruders from entering a high voltage yard. It's high voltage electricity, so we want anyone penetrating that. And we had some gaps in that where we had a raccoon be able to penetrate that. So Elliot and Payson, the ops manager, tightened that up. We shouldn't have the problem again. And we also notified our pest control company of the issues that we have out there with raccoons. So that was the event on January 25th. On January 31st, approximately 4:30 p.m., we had a grid disturbance, ISO New England. And again, it sent us to isochronous operation, so another full load rejection. It was actually not related to the facility transmission line, but you could actually see the transmission line issue. It was a small explosion. I would say approximately 1,500 feet down the line on the transmission line. That sent us into isochronous mode again. And again, the operators lined up the drag valve silencer arrangement and placed in the service. But again, it didn't open immediately in auto, and we had another noise event. Again, the facility returned to service an hour later. It was a quick, but we had a 2-minute noise issue at the facility at that point in time. The facility managers did walk down that transmission line, and we identified another potential issue. We had one of the insulators actually completely melted across and was preventing that transmission line from operating properly. They notified National Grid. National Grid came in, inspected it, and sent us into an emergency outage. And that happened on February 1st. They have repaired the issue, and we were able to go isochronous mode in a controlled manner. So there was no noise-related issues there. And it was an 8-hour evolution after the transmission line was repaired by National Grid. So kudos to the team for actually notifying National Grid, because National Grid gave us the all clear that the transmission line was all set for operation. Elliot and the team, used the trust but verify process, walked the line, and did find an additional issue that National Grid came out and was able to take care of it for us. So potentially mitigating another issue there. And finally, let me stop there and ask any questions there, because the last update is unrelated to anything that happened on the 24th or the 31st.
Go ahead.
So on the incident, the isochronous mode, is that what you call it?
Yes.
Isochronous mode? What mechanically happens to make the noise?
Yep.
Because I just don't understand it, and I'm wondering whether there's a fix to the noise having to do with that.
So typically at a power plant, when you go isochronous mode, you go from full load to, like we said, 10% load, we'll call it. So you actually have a venting evolution happen. Now,
Steam?
steam, yes. Steam goes, that typically would be routed to the turbine. The steam is now routed out of safety valves. At Saugus, it can go two ways, either to the safety valves or to a silencer. Typically, power plants don't have silencers related to this, but the Saugus facility does. It's in order to be a good neighbor and mitigate any type of noise issues that we were having. Back in, I'll call it 2021, we installed a silencer. So the brief noise exceedances that we heard, or the noise events we heard, were for that momentary lapse of that drag valve not opening and venting the steam to the silencer and going out our safeties. That was the noise that was heard.
So it takes some time to go to the silencer? It takes that...
So for 2.5 years, this silencer has worked flawlessly where it didn't take any time. We've identified a mechanical issue where the valve actuator isn't opening the silencer drag valve immediately. That was identified on this first incident on
25th.
on the 25th, I believe. Yeah, it was the 25th. I'm sorry, I misspoke if I said the 23rd.
So is it fixed?
So we are taking an unscheduled cold iron February 20th, and that was the lead time of getting the parts to repair it. And we'll be taking it on the 20th, give or take a couple days, because we were told today they will have the parts on the 20th. We wanted them as soon as possible, they're being expedited, and we were told the 20th is when we could take the outage and make the fix.
So that leads to my question in general.
Yep.
You've, I think last time you talked about the year going forward. What capital improvements are you doing at the plant that, what major capital improvements are you doing at the plant over the next year? And will any of those reduce these issues that are going on?
So what I can tell you about this silencer that's installed, it's state-of-the-art technology. You will not get newer, better technology than the silencer that's currently installed at this power plant. This silencer arrangement is unique to power plants where typically when you have a full load rejection, your process doesn't flow through a silencer. So when we bought this 2 years ago, and it worked flawlessly for 2 years, it was state-of-the-art technology. The vendor was on site last week,
Yeah, last Wednesday.
last Wednesday. Every possible upgrade that we can have with this valve, there won't be an upgrade to the silencer, but the valve, we'll be installing it on the 20th. As far as other capital improvements at this facility, I can tell you, and I can get a list to the Board of Health, we're spending $22 million at this facility. We just put a $4 million new refuse crane last year. That was one big capital improvement. We're putting a second one this year. All our variable speed drives at the facility have been updated to the newest technology.
Any to pollution control equipment or anything like that?
So when you look at pollution control equipment, our fabric filters have been completely renovated is the wrong word. We have all new fabric filter bags with the state-of-the-art technology in all the new compartments, 8 compartments each unit. Our SDA spray dry absorber have been all upgraded to the newest spray lance technology. And that's the majority of our major, capital improvements, anything over $500,000 or more. I certainly can get you a list of all of the smaller lance nozzle type of upgrades that we have.
That's right.
But this facility has spent upwards to $100 million in the last 3 years in upgrading the facility.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Can I ask, when there was so the delay is in the automatic
Yes.
silencer flow, for lack of, flowing to the automatic
Yep.
silencer. So was did it then have to have a worker go and
Correct.
physically?
Correct. So what happened is the actuator didn't power it off the seat, so the operator, per our procedure, went up there and manual actuated it, got it off the seat, and then it was able to work in auto at that point in time.
I have a quick question, Madam Chair. So obviously, this is a $750,000 capital improvement that you put in, and I can speak to the fact that it has been working as it was intended to work. And since September, we've had, 3 or 4 different events where, you are venting out because now, is this because of the same valve actuator that it is causing these kind of smaller events that it happened in September? So is it the same?
Yeah, we think this.
Part.
Yeah, so we think the September event was unrelated.
Okay.
That significant event, and that's the policy and procedure that we put in place, was to able to prevent something like that from happening again. It's tough to tell if that September event had anything related to these 2 events.
But it's the same type of part that's starting to.
Yeah, so we think,
fail.
the valve actuator, which has been exercised hundreds of times for that drag valve silencer arrangement, is going to be replaced and upgraded. We think
And that's on the 20th.
that's on the 20th. And the vendor that installed it, our internal engineering team, as well as another engineering firm that we used, confirmed that will fix the issue. Now, you know, we do operate a power plant, right? But certainly this drag valve silencer, getting back to the operation we saw for the prior 2 years before September is the goal. And we feel that after the 20th, we'll be in that position.
Great. Thanks, Pete.
Thank you.
I do have a final update on the 30th. We had our annual USDA compliance inspection for our internal waste program, and that's been brought up a couple times. So I did want to mention that we did go through our annual compliance inspection by the USDA. No issues or findings. You know, approved to move forward with the program that we utilize. But that has been brought up, so I just wanted to mention it, that we had that inspection.
I would like to add that on the days of these, the silencer issue,
Yep.
that there was communication
Oh, yes.
between
Yeah.
the plant and the people that we had designated to be notified.
Yeah, I wanted to thank the board for that. I
Yeah.
mean, that was something that we put together after September.
Right.
And I think it worked great.
It really worked great, and at the time, as the chairman, I didn't feel there was any need to go further because it was already corrected. There was no further noise issue.
Yeah, right.
So I just wanted to say that, let everybody know that what was put in place at the plant and for communication had been followed through. So, you know, we certainly appreciate that.
Ring down too, which was a great idea, right? The ring down in the control room have notified the Saugus Police Department and the Saugus Fire Department, I mean, in real time. 5-10 seconds after the event happens, our control room operator
And
is
so that's
calling
what I
down.
was referring to, that
Yeah.
everything that we had asked, and even though we're still not finished with the,
Right.
Yeah.
you know, with everything. So we haven't actually put any legal action in yet. We're still, that is all being, you know, the process takes so long, but, you know, the plant is already, Wind Waste has already taken their own action into corrective, their own corrective
There
actions.
you go. I think establishing the correction plan and then
Right.
making good on it, which you have over the last
Yeah.
couple of months, I feel as though that's doing, you know, a
Yeah.
lot. It's resonating. I
So,
think that's-
you know, we just want the public to know that they're standing in good faith and without an order as of yet. So, thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
Is that the end of, I have
Yeah,
a
okay.
lot of questions
Yeah.
not related to the incident.
Okay.
So the board received a DEP annual compliance report, I guess, that you guys provided. And I have some questions on it.
Okay.
On one of the pages, it talked about 87 shifts did not meet the ASME QRO certification requirements. And I just want to know more about it. Does your state permit require you to comply with the federal regulations, 40 CFR, whatever it is, as far as having certified operators at the plant all the time? Is that basically what it is?
So there's language in there. If we need to comply is vague. I can tell you the QRO program, Qualified Refuse Operator Program, requires there's a site-specific operator on site at least every 12 hours. So the gaps that you saw on the report was when we went longer than 12 hours without a QRO site-specific operator.
That was per shift, that was 87 shifts. It wasn't longer than 12.
Yeah, right, yeah. Did I not say that?
You just said, we went longer than 12, we need to go longer than 12.
So you
Correct,
say,
yeah.
you say it's vague, it's not really non-compliance. Is that what you said?
So when I look at that permit, right? it doesn't state that you have to have a QRO site-specific operator. That's why I say it's vague.
Okay. So just out of curiosity, it says 87 shifts, and I'm trying to get in my head how much time, okay? So you guys, I'm assuming you're running 3 shifts?
2 shifts,
3 shifts?
2 shifts,
7 days?
2.
What's that?
We run 2 shifts,
Oh,
yeah.
2 shifts.
2 shifts,
Okay.
12-hour days, so we have 4 total shifts.
Oh, okay.
4 shift,
Okay.
yeah.
So how many shifts would you have in a given month? You'd have,
Yeah, so you have what, 30, 60, yeah, 60 shifts.
60 shifts. Yeah, 60 times, so it just seems like a high number of 87 shifts. It's well, it's like
Yeah.
20% of the time, it seems like you're not, so where are you on this?
So I can tell you that the majority of those shifts happened at Q3 and the Q4, where we lost 2 qualified refuse operator shift supervisors. So our ops manager is going next month.
Yeah, I can speak to it a little bit too
Good.
if you want, Pete.
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
like I said, we lost 2 qualified individuals for the second half of the year that kind of hurt those values. So I believe the first half of the year was 11 shifts. Kind of fell behind there, so 2 promotions that took place. Both of those shift supervisors tested for their provisional, already passed, one in December, one the first week of January. Have another individual going March 13th, and 2 other individuals in ASME background right now to test for the provisional. And I already scheduled the site-specific examination, which basically a board of inspectors as well as a regulatory agent inspector can come to the site. It's like a week-long process. They kind of go through a number of modules and, test your knowledge of the facility, policies, procedures, company-wide. They could talk about the Board of Health and what's your relation, when you're going for the CFO exam. But, yeah, so we have August 12th, the week of August 12th is the site-specific examination. But I'm anticipating by the end of Q1 to have all these individuals with their provisional certification. So then there'll be provisional schedule.
One thing to add, when your provisional, when your provisional is scheduled within 6 months, you count as QRO coverage. So within 2 weeks, the facility will have those individuals count as QRO coverage as well.
And I believe it's provisional too, right? I think I said site-specific. Yeah, it's provisional.
Is 87 shifts that you didn't meet, some more provisional in that, during that time, or no?
If they don't have their site-specific scheduled in the 6 months, it does not count.
Okay. It just seems like a real high number of non-compliant shifts, not having a certified operator that's either a supervisor of the facility or whatever the chief the chief operator of the facility is, in my mind. I do have another question, just one more, I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem.
You don't mind? Our tech environmental report that we received talked about the facility starting to ship 50% of its ash to Shrewsbury. And you said it said official notification will be coming. I'm assuming we got the official.
We haven't done it yet.
Oh, you haven't done it yet?
No.
Okay.
We need to notify the Mass DEP and the Saugus Board of Health before we do it. We haven't done it,
Okay.
and we're not doing it
Okay.
right now.
Okay.
You will be notified before we do it.
Okay, great. Is there any additional transportation requirements that you guys have to do?
To ship the ash to Shrewsbury?
Yeah. Do you need any shipping authorization? Do you need any transportation permitting or anything like that for that type of waste?
So our contractor that would do it would be permitted through the state of Massachusetts.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate the
you.
questions.
Okay, Joyce here? Yeah, hi Joyce. So, we're gonna have, Joyce Redford, Director of the North Shore and Cape Ann Tobacco Policy Program, discuss a new tobacco.
Actually, I've been talking just about a couple gaps, because Saugus has done a phenomenal job historically in updating and staying current with the regulations. Something that has happened since the last iteration at the local level is state law. So state law requires, Saugus, the town, and a patchwork of other municipalities had done local flavor restrictions on tobacco and nicotine products. But we excluded mint, menthol, and wintergreen. And when the state law went into effect, June 1st, 2020, they included mint, menthol, and wintergreen.
Exactly.
So I gave you a list. This is typically the list. We use templates across the state, kind of keep everybody on the same page and legally vetted through process so it doesn't jeopardize the city or town in terms of any legal action. So on this, you'll see that I've put down on number 1 and 2, just on the checklist, these are things that were not addressed in your local regulation. Permit renewal for a tobacco permitted establishment. If they have outstanding fines, does the town want to include that then they can't renew? Okay. Which administratively is a benefit because you don't have to chase them around for their permits. So if, I'm gonna go through the list, we can talk about it or we can hold it off for next month, but I just wanted to bring these points to the board. The second is renewal, whether or not an individual gets to have their permit if they've had 3 violations within 36 months. So that would be the opportunity for the board to potentially have a revocation. You have that opportunity anyway because it's a license that you issue, so you can always pull it in. A permit cap means that there's only so many permits available in the town, and right now, the cap in Saugus is 30. We only have 26 total. In my ideal world, we'd reduce that to 26 because ultimately we're trying to get that number down.
Right.
And we currently have a total of 26, and of those 26, 2 of them are adult-only retailers, which means that no one under the age of 21 is ever permitted in there.
Okay.
And they get to have, the one big benefit is they get to sell a higher level of nicotine per milliliter, that regular convenience stores and liquor stores can't sell. So that would be a recommendation from me to the town. We don't have any language regarding feet from a school, and this would all be only if it was a new application, not an existing retailer. So the board could decide that. There was some language, I didn't find it in the 2016 version, but there was some language at one point, Joy, you were here when this all happened, not to have 2 permitted establishments like in not even a mall, but the only thing I could say is where Uber is.
Like a plaza.
The plaza. So you're not,
Oh, okay.
and
Makes
the retail is like this because you're keeping them from having competition right next door. So it makes sense. And again, this is for new retailers, not if there happens to be 2 currently right side by side. The next one, anywhere that I circled yes, we don't even have to discuss. You have all these in your current regulation. So if you go down to the fining system, I think this one is pretty important. The state encapsulated almost everything that the local programs have done, local boards of health, with the exception of cigar pricing and packaging, which means any one single cigar or cigarillo. And at the time, this was very kid-friendly. It was also flavored. They were cheap, sweet, easy to get. So that's a separate local component of the regulation. It's unique to, well, it's not terribly unique to Saugus because it's all over the North Shore and Cape Ann, but it was unique compared to the state law. And so the recommendation, so if you had a violation, if you were a retailer and you had a violation, so our tolling period, the window we look back is 36 months. So currently in your regulation, if someone had a violation they sold to a minor, state law would require at minimum they have a $1,000 fine if it's their first violation. If we went in and their cigars were priced incorrectly, right now that would bounce back to a 100, 200, 300 level. So it would be a second violation within the regulation. So you'd go from, I'm a retailer, I got $1,000 this month. Next month my cigar pricing is off. We go $200. And then let's say they have flavor that we find. In 36 months, it'd be $5,000. It's not consistent, and it's kind of a headache to keep track. It's even problematic for retailers. They don't know where they fall. So the recommendation is that we put all of the components of a regulation to follow state law fining. So it's $1,000 for the first violation, $2,000 for the second, $5,000 for the third, all within 36 months between. If someone has a sale to a minor now and they're clean record for 36 months, they get a first violation. So they have a chance to clean their slate, so to speak. So that's the recommendation, to make it all one fining system. You already have a 36 months tolling period, which is that look back or look forward, and that's in state law, so that's the minimum we can do. The other big piece is the state law put in some weird language. It was before the violation language, but it speaks to days of suspension. So state law requires, currently, if there's a first violation of a sale to a minor, not if they happen to have flavor that they're not supposed to have or any other violation, but only when it comes to a sale to a minor, that there is a suspension that goes along with that. So we're recommending, they said, they left it to the board, they specifically said at least 7 days for a second violation and at least 30 days. You can always go higher, but that's what state law requires. But they left the first violation saying the Board of Health needs to decide between 1 day and 30 or more days. I'm recommending to this board tonight a 3-day suspension if there's a sale to a minor and it's their first violation, and that would be consistent with the collaborative members. We're part of a collaborative of 16 municipalities going from Saugus and Lynn all the way up to Rockport and Gloucester. And we have now probably a majority, 11 or 12 municipalities that have adopted the 3-day language. So if there's a first violation, now if anybody's on their second violation now, currently, you were already at 7 and that's in line with state law. So that's the only addition would be to add a time frame for their suspension.
Can I ask, am I understanding correctly that all the all the people in this collaboration have to be on the same page, or no?
With state law, yes, it's the minimum. So not just the collaborative, but everyone. But if they have, but I'm recommending that in the places where there is the ability to move or whatever, that we stay as consistent, because a lot of retail, you may have a retailer here who owns a store in Saugus and owns one in Lynn and owns one in Gloucester.
Okay.
There
But
is one municipal.
We can adopt it even if Lynn hasn't adopted it yet, is
Oh,
my
yes,
question.
absolutely.
I know we have to say with that, okay.
And in fact, I will tell you, so there's a couple like in our collaborative, so 36 months is the look back for
Yeah.
state law. But Swampscott went above, you can always go above, and I'm not suggesting we do, but just to give you an example. So Swampscott has a look back of 60 months. And Hamilton just is about, they have their draft and they have an accepted draft. I don't think they've gone to public hearing, but their suspensions, they wanted 7-day, 30-day, 30-day. So the boards have the ability to go higher, but not lower. And you can do it if someone else hasn't done it. I think that's to your point.
Yep.
And the shall, you already have the shall language. So I don't know if you want to, I don't know if you left time today to discuss these, or you want me to draft something and bring it to the board at the next meeting and we can discuss it. Then what would be recommended, although you're not required, we always recommend if there's a significant change in your regulation that you hold a public hearing. They haven't been terribly well attended because of state laws, so these aren't like a lot of things that are out of the ordinary for even our surrounding municipalities. And I can get that to John pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I also, just so you know, I've been with the program for 26 years. I'm grateful that we have grant dollars that cover this. And like I said, it's 16 municipalities, and we do the enforcement for your regulation. We also do the education, so if there's a new component to a regulation, we send out information, we go and visit the establishments. And we do an inspection every year, like at least one inspection at every establishment. So to bring them in line, make sure they don't have flavor that they're not supposed to be selling, etc. I would also recommend two things that I didn't mention. One is that we put a cap on, it's called a dual cap, so you'd have a total number of permits issued in the town, and then a specific number of adult only. And I would recommend the 26 total, and of those, the 2 that you currently have adult only. I don't think the town needs more than that for adult only. And the other thing is, in the regulation, the current youth access regulation, which we're talking about, there's a definition for a smoking bar, but it doesn't address it anywhere in the regulation. It is addressed in your environmental tobacco smoke, the workplace regulation, and although it's not explicit, it says we make no exception for a smoking bar. So they're not permitted in Saugus and haven't been, since the adoption of the ETS regulation, which I think was 2005. But I would just say let's add it to be explicit, that smoking bars are prohibited in the town of Saugus.
I agree.
And I'll highlight anywhere where we make, and some of the things I am gonna take the Saugus regulation, lots and lots of additional references and definitions that, because the industry has also changed. So we'll update those, and I'll highlight for the board to look at, like, what is significant change or what is just like a language change to reflect state law, just to make it easier.
Just a quick question, please. Have you addressed anything at all about the 21? The age 21 and the... With the...
Retailers?
Yeah,
Abs-
about the date, the one date.
They know that it's 21. It's been 21 in
Right.
Saugus for many years.
Yeah,
But do
no.
you mean,
The one date, and I forget what the date is, but we had a public hearing in Malden about
oh, you're saying, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
So you're saying the smoke-free generation.
the smoke, that's it, thank
So
you. I'm
what,
wondering if you have
we have not
thought
addressed it
about
here.
that or addressed that at all.
We probably would not recommend moving until we have the lawsuit, which you're aware, if you're in.
Yes,
So
yes.
Malden and several other municipalities have adopted the smoke-free generation, which means there's a certain cutoff date, and I don't have it because I wasn't thinking I would talk about it, but there's a
I'm
cutoff
sorry.
date.
I'm sorry.
No,
I
no,
just
no.
was wondering if
It's
you
a
were...
really good point. So I just don't know the date, and I feel
Right.
bad. So the smoke-free generation date is, it won't matter if you're legal ever, if you were born
Turn 21
after that
a
date.
certain date, then you'll never be able to buy cigarettes.
Right.
Just something to think about.
Yep, and it
Something
is,
to think
I
about.
mean, it's the ideal, and there is a lawsuit, and if the state wins, it wins, and we will encourage municipalities to move forward because the industry is not going away.
Right.
I mean, if you think about this, prior to the state law, and probably about 3 years before that, maybe even more, we had youth smoking rates down to less than 10%. We were the pillar of the whole nation. And then the industry, the vaping industry came in,
Yep.
and we reversed all of that. They used the playbook right out of old tobacco. They targeted young people. They made it flavor, high concentrations of nicotine, and the way it's created, it's a salt base. So there's a few of us in the room who remember back in the day, if you were gonna smoke and you tried to smoke something combustible, you'd be choking on trying to force your body to accept this poison. Well, this made it really easy. So kids who were 12 and 13 were able to vape this little pack of liquid nicotine and be addicted like within a week. And now in some cases, we're having in schools, like they're having psychotic issues because the nicotine level in their brain is so high. So there's a reason why we're trying to stop the industry from just, promoting this on and on in another form. It's whack-a-mole. Before it was combustible, now it's something they vape. So if the board wants to, I certainly can bring information. I won't necessarily put it on there, but you can talk about what it means. And I do know surrounding municipalities they've had the public hearing without an enactment date
Right.
until there's a legal finding that says, and if they find that they can't do it because it didn't go through Superior Court
Yeah.
or Supreme Court, then you just say, okay, this is something we voted on, but it never came to fruition. If not, it's already in play and you can set an enactment date.
Great, thanks. Yeah, whatever you can find.
Yeah, sure. The only other thing is there's 2 potential suspensions that I know we were gonna talk about. I just wanna know the date so I can go do the inspections. This is not my pencil.
Yeah, I think we're gonna set those dates. I did have a question for you, Joyce.
Yep.
So, we touched briefly on it, I think, when we issued the suspension to Blue Moon Smoke Shop a couple of years ago. Because I went down and, just to kind of verify what was going on down there, make sure that they understood what the situation was and everything. But, I go in and I saw, a number of like hemp products. So I know I asked you a little bit about it, so, I mean, is there anything coming down the pipe as far as, like hemp regulations are concerned?
There is, actually, and there's a couple new products on the market, and a couple of the municipalities have adopted local regulations. So MDR, Mass Department of Agriculture and Recreation, they're the ones who govern hemp, but they govern industrial hemp. So, once we got flavor restrictions, talk about an industry that's never gonna go to sleep. Everything in the world became something you could smoke, vape, drink, and it was a hemp product. Well, MDA, it's against their regulation to manipulate food, to have anything in a food product that is hemp. It's supposed to be for making clothes or sheets or whatever. So the problem is they don't have an enforcement arm that's out there. And as they rest without enforcement, the industry is generating all these products. There's something called Delta 8, and the reason why it's called Delta 8 is that's the percentage of what would make you high, like THC. So it's below the level that the Cannabis Commission would consider to be enforceable, so they could sell it in a store. The problem is it's synthetically altered, so MDAR is saying this is against the law because in their regulations it says it can't be manipulated. And these are products that aren't regulated, they get you high, and they're coming in lots of forms. So one of the concerning things, especially about the Delta 8, if there's anything vapable that's flavored in Massachusetts, as of the state law, doesn't matter if it's melatonin, if it's not FDA approved and you vape it and it's flavored, we can regulate it. The Board of Health can regulate it. So it goes to that $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 fine. It doesn't say anything about drinks or candy or gummies or all of those things that are out there. So there's a local regulation you can adopt, and that would give the Board of Health and their agents, which I've been doing for our collaborative members, that gave us an enforcement arm, and also an opportunity to educate these retailers to not carry this stuff. Because now it's just going in and I find it and I say, you can't have that. Here's the MDOT regulation, you can't have this. The other thing is Delta 9, and Delta 9 meets the definition for cannabis. Actually, Cannabis Control Commission does regulate Delta 9. The problem is the Cannabis Control Commission says, kind of like the alcohol, ABCC, you go in and you say, I found this cannabis product in Joe's store on the corner, and CCC says, well, we don't permit them, so we don't regulate them. And we're finding cannabis, it says right on it, this product is cannabis, it's mixed with hemp. Again, it's a separate regulation because it's not necessarily synthetic, although it could be. And so there's 2 very small, short regulations that give you, at the local level, the authority to enforce to get these products out of stores. Because no one else is looking, No, CCC isn't there because they're not on their list as permitted, and MDAR just doesn't have an enforcement arm. And they are showing up a lot. And the other just really concerning thing about the Delta 8 drinks is they're showing up in liquor stores currently, but there's no alcohol in them. So it says 0 alcohol, and how long before it's in a pizza shop or a corner store or whatever. And if I had kids, which I don't, I'd be like, I wouldn't even know what that was. It looks like an energy drink like anybody would sell. And at the next meeting, I'm even happy to email that to you. You guys can look at it prior to. And I'll send some photographs of these products because one of them is called Skittles. I mean, it looks exactly like Skittles. Yeah, it's kind of scary if you have young kids out there.
And we can control that?
You can
Well,
regulate.
we can regulate that. I mean,
Yep,
yeah.
you can adopt a regulation locally and have enforcement, which we will help you with, or, any board of health agent. Little education, you're in there doing a food inspection, you can include that in your list.
Sure.
Okay, thanks. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm gonna wait just for the dates.
Okay.
Public Health Nurses Report is up next. Thank you, Terry.
Hi. I forgot my glasses, so forgive me.
Wanna borrow a pair? I have them.
That's okay, that's okay, yeah, that's right, thank you though. Okay, so we'll start since March 1st, 2020. Saugus has seen 11,161 cases of COVID-19 and 115 confirmed deaths. This 11,000 number is not accurate because, again, it is only PCR testing. It is not the rapid testing. I brought along also a graph just to kind of show where we were in January. So our highest numbers here was in January of 2022, you can see. And then here in 2024, January was the highest since 2 years. But we are coming down. Thankfully, good thing also is that the death rate has pretty much been staying the same. And that's just to show that vaccines are working. This is also, just to let you know, this is a wastewater graph, so this is pretty accurate. 61 cases of influenza in Saugus.
Sorry, how many?
61. Yep, again, that number is not accurate because most people anyone here who's had the flu know that you do not really go out of your house and unless you're going to the hospital and get tested. So that's not really reflective of how many cases are in the community. Let's see. We are also continue to have wellness clinics at the senior center twice a month. Those are highly popular. 2 cases of Lyme. I just want to point that out because supposedly we're going to be in the 50s this upcoming weekend. People are going to be taking their dogs and their pets walking Break Cart. Just be aware that there are still ticks out there. So check yourself after. If you do that. We are looking into a Narcan training for town employees and also for the schools, for teachers and admin, so that's something that I'm working on now. Just want to quickly say also the recalls that are current are the Quaker Chewy Dippy Bars. So if you have those at home, please look on the FDA website to make sure those aren't the ones recalled. Also, Robitussin, the honey adult bottles were recalled. So again, please don't use it. Check the FDA website. These are some pamphlets that I made up. I showed you before. It's the Public Health and Human Services. It just has a plethora of phone numbers, hotlines, mental health, food access that I'm going to put in the library, at the Y, and the town hall. You can look at that if you want, pass that along. And that's it. Any questions?
Thanks, Terry. This is great.
Yeah,
Excellent.
thank you.
Love the graph.
Yeah. Great information on this. And I like the places that you decided to put it.
Yeah.
It's good. Okay. Director's report?
All right, good evening, everybody. How are you?
Good.
All right, so just to start off, I feel as though we can definitely address the tobacco violations that we had last month. We collected $5,000 in fines this month, and my suggestion to the board would be to hold the 2 suspension hearings at our next scheduled meeting, which would be on the 11th of March. So if that pleases the board, I would recommend we do so.
Yep. Pleases me. Anybody have an objection?
Nope.
I'll make a motion that we set those
Okay.
for hearings.
All right, I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent.
Passes?
So,
4-0.
so we'll reach out to the 2 establishments and let them know that they're gonna be on the agenda for that meeting.
Okay.
So I have a couple other things for you tonight, a Hockey Town update, a Square One Mall trash update. We did speak with our noise and particulate consultant regarding some data analysis, and then we do have a new business that I'm going to talk about briefly. So just to talk a little bit about Hockey Town, so in December we had a number of complaints regarding the operation down there, namely some evacuations due to carbon monoxide buildup and a number of kind of sanitary issues that were brought to our attention. So we have been investigating the situation down there as far as what their operation looks like, as far as if they're keeping accurate records of their testing and maintenance and what have you. So we did conduct a full inspection per 105 CMR 675 today with myself, our sanitarian, and then a member of the Inspectional Services Department. So there were some sanitary issues, that go along with running any type of athletic facility. They did decommission their snack bar a few years ago after COVID kind of put that out of commission. So we did note there to be some leftover food product in that concession stand. So it's something that we are going to be looking at. But ultimately, we did see there to be a number of things that they were more so in compliance with the regulation than they were out of compliance with the regulation. So, like I said, I mean, there's some things sanitarily that obviously we have to address, and we have scheduled a re-inspection for 30 days from now, in which we're requiring them to come up with a set of written SOPs to provide the Board of Health just for their kind of general operation and what they plan to do as far as air quality testing is concerned, and as far as what their sanitary structure is going to look like from a custodial standpoint. We also discussed with some of the owners of the property and the establishment as far as capital improvements are concerned. They do plan on updating a lot of their facility in April after this particular year. And whether or not that's due to previous complaint or what have you, or maybe it's just time. I know it's been around for obviously a long time, so it's definitely something that is going to be a welcome sight, and we're going to be checking in on their their sanitary upgrades over the next month or so. So moving forward, I expect there to be a number of improvements that we do see. So that's my Hockey Town update. So as far as Square One, we had some issues with illegal dumping last month. So Square One Mall has since installed surveillance equipment in that back lot, as well as posted signage, saying that there is in fact, surveillance equipment, that they're under surveillance back there. I went back by there last week. Some leftover debris from the major, dumping that was going on, but ultimately they have put some more solid partition Jersey barrier style, blockades at the entrances to the lot, and we haven't seen any, new activity since that. We did have a pretty alarming report over the last week. It turned out to be, somebody had brought a shipping container in full of prizes for the new arcade business that's going on in there. So, we went down there and there's, burlap sacks with, Chinese writing on them. It was like, what's going on down here?
Oh my gosh.
So we were, happy to find out that was just part of the operation. But yeah, so like I said, there hasn't been any new major issues down there, and we've been working very closely with our solid waste coordinator as far as picking up anything that may be coming down the pipe. So in regards to our noise and particulate consultant that we've hired, we do have, we have had a discussion regarding some data analysis as far as the purple air monitor data that we've been getting presented over the last couple of, over the last few meetings. And I did have a conversation with John regarding, kind of what some of those, data points can mean as far as, what emissions really look like, what it could really kind of, be indicative of. And also we've spoken about the possibility, because I know that in our consultant agreement, we've talked about some real-time data being supplied to the Board of Health as well as our office down there. So ultimately, I think that we're going to be looking at scouting out some areas for equipment placement. So I think that over the course of the next week or so, we're going to be talking a little bit more about what suitable locations there may be. I know that the DEP had reached out to the town of Saugus about some additional purple air monitors, so it might be a good idea for us to kind of collaborate with the DEP as far as getting some of our own data that kind of can be compared to some of the data that we're getting from the purple air monitors. And then obviously we do have some kind of the ongoing noise events where they may not be obviously as as serious as 2019 or as in September. We want to make sure that we are monitoring their the activity that comes down there. So we're going to be reaching out to John again to make sure that we kind of schedule that. And then just as far as the new business that's coming in there, so we have a plan review that we've been reviewing over the course of the last couple of weeks that was brought to our attention in October for a new golf simulator to go in on Broadway. So ultimately, they're looking at a full bar liquor license, kind of the whole entertainment shebang down there on Broadway. Ultimately, we did deny their initial plan review just because there were some too many discrepancies with the initial plans. So they provided us with a floor plan that kind of had the kitchen layout and kind of the general layout of the facility, but we didn't have any real plumbing schematics. We didn't have any information on the exterior grease trap that they're required to put in, and then ultimately they did provide us with some specs on a grease trap that turned out to be specs for a septic tank. So we had to send that back, and ultimately where they planned on putting the exterior grease trap, it turned out to be set on an easement that's going up into the Nobu development there. So ultimately, we sent it back, and we just told him, ultimately to kind of get, all of his ducks in a row and submit everything to us so we can all go over it prior to them, going to the selectmen, and looking for a business license that they don't really have approval for yet. So moving forward, they said that they're going to be backing off from attending any future meetings until they get everything that they need over to us. But ultimately, I'm going to be brief this month. That's all I have for you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Just for my clarification, we don't have anything with John scheduled yet.
So I spoke with him last week. He is very interested in coming to our next meeting to discuss some of the data from the purple air, and in the meantime, he has been looking at kind of some of the previous 12 months emission data. So he has started as far as like his analytical aspect of the contract that we have.
So are we definitely gonna schedule him for the next meeting, or
I think it'd be a good idea.
Okay, so you think does he think he'll have enough data to give us something sort of concrete for
Well,
them?
I think that-
Because I think people are like,
Yeah, and I think that by having him come in to at least discuss some of the data that's been presented over the last couple of months, as far as the purple air monitor is concerned,
Yeah.
just in kind of my cursory conversations with him, I kind of, spoke to him about, okay, well, what do these blips in the radar mean?
Yeah.
What does this spike mean? And ultimately, he kind of had some similar thoughts that I did. So I think that by having, an expert, come in to speak to, what can constitute some of these, readings that we're getting on the purple air monitors, I feel as though it would at least put some folks at ease as far as seeing, these big spikes in, these air monitors, and at least having some answers as far as what that means when they
so
look
I
at it.
totally agree with you, because we get, I've been telling people that this is in the works.
Sure.
So I'm so excited that if we can get him to the next meeting, and he can give us something to present to these people, that we, that they know that we're.
I agree. I agree.
Perfect.
And I think that having some concrete testimony, we'll call it. I
Yep.
think that having somebody in here to be like, okay, well, this is what this really means.
Yeah.
Versus like pointing fingers at any one given source. I feel as
Right.
though it's a lot easier to.
And it seems like so long ago when we had the person from the state.
Right. Yeah,
So I think we
so-
need to kind of show people that we are definitely working on this.
And you know what, and ultimately, I think that, where, obviously, we've been working on that regulation as far as performance standards are concerned, and I think that while, it looks good on paper, I feel as though we're certainly gonna have some data to back it up, should we
Absolutely.
decide to push it forward as far as regulation is concerned. So when we do, whether that be a town meeting or however however it goes, I feel as though having some sort of concrete data to back up the fact that we are, putting forward a bylaw, I think it's gonna help a lot. So that's why I have been speaking to them about,
Yep.
placing some equipment and things like that. So I think it's gonna help us.
I mean, we have a lot of balls we're sort of juggling up in the
Absolutely.
air,
Oh,
but
absolutely,
but we
yeah.
need to not let this fall.
Yeah, we just can't fumble.
Yeah, we can't fumble the balls. All right, next up, anything we have that has not been anticipated for the past 48 hours, I always get that wrong. Anybody have anything they'd like to discuss that we haven't covered, or,
I don't have anything to
It's
say.
not yet.
no? What? We're good?
Good. I don't, yeah, nothing.
Does anybody want to make a motion to adjourn till our March 11th? Wow.
So moved.
Okay, Chairman will second, and this will be the end of our meeting till March 11th. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Thank you.